Today, it's a vignette filter with a twist. Today, we'll be understanding the vignette filter found in Vignette Color Efex, part of the Vignette collection. This is more than a basic vignette filter. Stay tuned. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to The Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. Thank you for joining me today. Today, it's Color Efex, the vignette filter. Now, this is not a standard vignette filter. It does some pretty special things. I like to use it with my flower photography when I want to add that nice, soft color vignette around the entire flower, just to give it a nice artistic look and feel. And yes, you can use it to add that traditional vignette look, and it also lets you place the center wherever you want it. But what piece of software out on the market today doesn't let you make vignettes all day long? But I want to show you the more creative ways you can use the vignette found in Color Efex Pro. Let's start by taking a look at the Vignette Collection 5 manual. Okay, so the vignette filter simulates the application of a vignetting effect worthy of a darkroom. Now, that's pretty strong words, worthy of a darkroom. I do agree with that. But here's what it has special. My favorite thing, color. Lets you select the color to be used for the vignetting. Use the eyedropper to select a color from the photo, or click on the color chart to open the color picker tool. We're going to check that out. You can also adjust the shape, just like I showed you in my last tutorial on the Vignette Blur filter. We can adjust shapes. Now, there's also an adapt edges here. Controls the relationship between the shape of the vignette and the image details. The higher the value of this slider, the more the vignetting shape becomes part of the image. I'll show you how that works. And then we have a traditional transition slider, like all vignettes have. We also have a size slider, sets the area in the image to which vignetting is to be applied. And of course, an opacity slider, so we can adjust the amount of the actual vignetting. And then a place center, where we can place the center of the vignetting effect, which is very important, and not all vignette filters have that. So this is something that's very useful. But what I'm most interested in today is that color vignette, which you're going to see on two different images. This will be the first image, and then this will be the second. And you'll see how we can add some beautiful color vignetting to really take these from just really nice flower images into beautiful artistic flower images. Now, you can use this creative color vignetting effect on other types of photographic images, but that's all up to your interpretation on them. I want to show you today how I utilize this on my flower photography. It's really cool. Let's get started. On this image, I added a classical soft focus filter from Vignette Color Efex. So I'm going to turn this on. This will be an upcoming filter that I get into. This is another great filter for like flower photography and many other types of photography when you want that soft focus, dreamy look. But I think it really adds a nice effect to this image. Here's the before and here's the after. But now let's add a nice color vignette to this. In order to launch Color Efex, we can either come up here to Filter and find the Vignette Collection and launch it right here, or you can come up here to File and come down to Automate and open up the Vignette Selective tool by clicking right here. Or if you've made yourself an action, if you have the TK8 plugin for Photoshop, you can click on your action like this. And this is what I like to do because it's so much quicker than going up and hunting around for it up in these menus. It's just so much quicker, and it's right out on my desktop. Now, I saved that as a favorited filter, so you're going to find it right inside of here if you do that, inside of filters, and it's the vignette filter. I'm going to click this, and that'll launch Color Efex Pro. And we're greeted with a very ugly image right now. And this happens a lot when you open up different filters inside of the Vignette collection. Some of them look really horrible, but if you don't understand how they work, you may just say, well, who would ever want to use that? But don't give up. Always dig deeper. And that's what I'm here to help you to do. The Vignette Selective tool has allowed me to go right into the vignette filter, which I really love the Vignette Selective tool for that reason alone. Okay, so let me show you how a standard vignette works. Right now we have a vignette on this image. So if we take this opacity slider right here, don't be fooled by this one. This is for control points. I'm going to take this opacity and slide it back. It starts out with a standard, darken the edges vignette. So we could pull this back and now we have a vignette. Okay, so here's the before and here's the after. Let's see what all these sliders do first before we get into the whole color vignette thing, okay? And we're just going to use this black dark vignette to do it. So what I'm going to do is take this opacity slider, let's drag it the whole way to the right. Let's take the transition slider and drag it the whole way to the left, so we can really see what's going on here. And let's take adaptive edges and drag it the whole way to the left as well. And as far as size, we can see what the size is doing now. It's just adjusting the size of the vignette. Now, if we were to go with place center, we can see, like, if I click right here, it shifts where the vignette's going. Isn't that cool? So you have to click this each time you want to reset it to a different area. So let's click it again, and I think right up in this area is where I want my vignette to go, in this area here. So this is a good way to pick a shape, okay? So if we look here at our shapes, it defaults at shape 2. If we click the drop down, shape 1, if you hover over it, is a circle. Shape 2 is more of an oval. Shape 3 is a rectangle, and if I hover over shape 4, it's a rectangle as well. So again, all you have to do is hover over these. And this is a good way to pick the shape that you want. Now, shape 4 and 3 look the same. Nothing happens there. But if I click on shape 4 and move this adaptive edges, see how it's really aggressive the way it's grabbing those edges. So that's kind of interesting, right? And we can utilize this for certain types of images. But shape number 3, if I move the adaptive edges, you can see it's not quite as aggressive. This shape will be more for just adding a nice square type border around your image. So we can adapt these edges, and it's going to cling to the edges of your image. And so we want to pick a shape here. So let me take this adapt edges and pull this back in again. So what do we want? A circle? No, you know what? I think I want more of an oval like this. Okay, and I may want it to come down a little bit. So let me grab place center and maybe pull it maybe up a little bit. I wish you could go ahead and move these things around, but I don't know of a way to do that. If anybody does, let me know in the comment section below. But I think right there looks pretty good. Now, again, I would take the opacity and start to pull it in and like that. But, you know, it looks really funky here because I need a transition. So let's take the transition and start to slide it so it blends nicely. And somewhere right around there looks pretty good. Now we can adjust the size to make it smaller or larger. And I think I'm going to make it maybe somewhere around there. We'll just start out with that. But remember, we're going to go into color here in a second. But I just wanted to show you this is a good starting point to pick the shape and the placement. And then also we can adapt the edges so it adapts more into the flower. And I'm going to start out right about here. And now we're going to work with color, and you're going to see how cool this is. What I just showed you using black, the black swatch, and the way I adjusted this and found the exact vignette for the image. This is the way I always like to start all of my vignettes. So you may want to go back and watch that section of the video again just to understand what I'm actually doing here, because it'll really save you a lot of time and messing around when you're trying to get the proper vignette. And now for the color. Now here's a tip. I like to shut off the vignette filter by unchecking it. And this way I can see the exact image that I'm starting with. And I like to grab this color picker tool and come over and find a color that I want to make my vignette. And I think I'll use one of these tones like right in here. And as soon as I do that, it rechecks the vignette filter back on, and look at that beautiful vignette on there. And it's really just that simple. The hard part is getting the vignette the way you want it to be. And then you can obviously come back in here and readjust all these adjustments here. And let me just play with the size here a little bit. Now, you know what? I had it pretty much right where I needed it. But again, you could come in here and readjust. Mainly now would be the opacity. Do I want a stronger effect? I can move it to the right and just dial it into where it just looks really natural. And I think maybe right about there. Here is the before and here is the after. But isn't that cool? Now, once I get this back into Photoshop, if I feel the effect's too strong, I could ease back on the opacity. But I'd rather it be a little stronger than a little bit weaker, because I can always take away, but I can't add to. That's another important tip. So make your effect maybe slightly stronger than what you think you need. And in fact, I think I'll do that. I'll give it a little bit more opacity to maybe somewhere right around there, but I think that looks really nice. I'm going to check my center placement. Let me click on here so I can reset it, and I'm going to try right here. Yeah, that's pretty good because now I have more of these flowers up in here, meaning they're protected a little bit more from that color going over them, not quite so much. That's all I want to do right now, so let's click apply and we'll go right back into Photoshop. Now, once I'm in Photoshop, what I can do is put a layer mask on here. So you can come down here and just click this icon. That puts a white layer mask. Now, you can get a black brush, and I'm just typing B to get my brush tool. And if you don't have black here, you can type your X key and that'll change it to black. And at about 20% opacity, if I want to add some of this, take some of that color off of here, I can kind of like at 20% opacity, just kind of paint in here a little bit and just reduce some of that there. And as you look at my mask here, you can see what I'm doing here. This is what my mask looks like, just like that. So in other words, I'm just taking some of that effect off of here. Okay, so let's take a look. Here is the before and here is the after. And again, if it's too strong, I can take this opacity and just pull it back a little bit. And I might just do that. That's around 85, 87%. Here's a before and here's an after. But just like that, you can add a beautiful color vignette to your flower images. Now let's do another image. I'll click on the Vignette Blur filter. We're in Color Efex Pro 5. Filters, click on Vignette Filter, and here we go. Again, we have black. We can take the opacity, drag it up the whole way, pull our transition the whole way in, and find the right shape we want. And I think this oval shape is going to be good. Here's a circle. Now, I think oval is going to be the best for this. And now we can adjust the size. We can make it smaller, larger. I think I'll make it a little bit larger, somewhere around there. And also, here's my adaptive edges, okay? So you can see how they're clinging more. I don't think I want any adaptive edges on this one. I'm going to take my transition and drag it to the right. But before I keep going further with that, let me go ahead and pull this opacity in and get it looking the way I want it. Maybe somewhere around there. Now maybe readjust my size. And my transition, I want more transition, I think, like that. And now I'm going to work with the size and get this dialed in to where it looks right. And I think somewhere right around there. And I think I'll reduce the opacity to here. Here is the before and here's the after. Now let's shut off the vignette filter. And now I'll grab the color picker tool by clicking on it and let's find a color. And I think one of these pinks like this. But isn't that cool? And now I can go ahead and readjust. I may readjust the size. Like that. Just throw a little bit of that pink foggy look over this area right here. Here's the before and here is the after, but I like it. I think it looks good. I may still adjust the size a little bit more. Getting a little bit more in here. I'm going to overdo the size a little bit because I can use layer masking in Photoshop to paint some of that off. My work here is done, so let's click apply and we'll be right back in Photoshop. Here's the before and here's the after. I think it's too strong for sure. So let me take the opacity and just ease it back to maybe, yeah, right about there, 69%. Here's the before and here's the after. And now I'll put a white mask on there by clicking this icon. And now with my black brush, I'm typing my B key to get my brush tool. Nice soft edge brush, 0% hardness. And at 20% opacity, I'm just going to take some of that fogginess off this leaf here. Any area that I feel it's too strong, I can pull it back a little bit, maybe down in here. Every time I lift my brush, I'm taking a little bit more off. And something like that, maybe a little bit more. I'll make my brush a little smaller and just take some of this off on the edge here. Something like that. Okay. But you know, you got to take your time. I'm making a tutorial, but I like it. Here is the before and here is the after. I still feel it's a little too strong, so I'm going to ease back on the opacity a little bit more. Right there. Here's a before and here's an after, but I think a very nice improvement. The Vignette Filter found in Nik Color Efex, part of the Nik collection. I love this filter for adding color vignettes. I don't use it for adding regular vignettes because, we have tons of vignetting filters. But whenever I need color, this is my go-to filter. If you enjoyed the tutorial today, please give it a like, share it with your friends, and if you're not yet a subscriber, please subscribe, click that bell notification icon, and then every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll be notified. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. I'll see you all right here next time, but until then, happy editing!